Ashton Kutcher is one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. So where has he been these last few years? Turns out that's a question with a handful of interesting answers. Ashton Kutcher's first marriage to Demi Moore came to an end in 2013. The separation came after reports that he had cheated on her. She later claimed in her memoir, Inside Out, that Kutcher had encouraged her to open up the relationship and have threesomes with someone with whom he allegedly had an affair. As Esquire later reported, the tumultuous separation and the tabloid reports of his infidelity left him with a severely damaged reputation. He even heard his colleagues saying things like, "Can you believe what he did?" at industry events. The negative publicity reminded Kutcher of one of his darkest times. As a teen, he had broken into his old high school and been arrested. Kutcher eventually moved past this low point in his life, but it took tons of work. He told Esquire, "You own the you did wrong and you go forward." Although Kutcher's career has slowed down over the years, his personal life has only gotten busier and busier. In 2012, he began dating his former That 70s Show co-star Mila Kunis. The pair got engaged in 2014, had their first child a few months later, and the following year they tied the knot. They had their second child in 2016. Kutcher later told Esquire, "The thing about Mila that made our relationship accelerate was that I had always admired her talents, her skills, her gifts. But I knew that she didn't need me, and she knew that I didn't need her." For Kutcher, spending time with his wife and children is better than any acting role. He told E! News in 2023, "The dream role is the role I play as a father and a husband. My life is so good. I love my family so much. I love spending time with my kids. I love my wife so much." It's no wonder his acting roles have been few and far between ever since he and Kunis began their family. Besides spending all that time with his family, Kutcher also keeps himself very busy with investing. He explained to Vox in 2016, "I started off just investing as an independent person. I was running a production company and I saw buffering speeds start to pick up online, and I realized there was going to be a migration of content delivery into that space." Over the years, Kutcher has made some investments that have proved extremely lucrative. He invested in companies like Square, Foursquare, Skype, Airbnb, and Uber. Obviously, all of these companies did really, really well. He told Vox, "I started to do relatively well and kind of doubled down on it." Kutcher eventually began a fund with his partner, Guy Oseary. By 2016, they had invested $30 million and raised $130 million. Eventually, Kutcher's success as an investor meant that he simply didn't need to act anymore. As he put it to Esquire, "That's not part of my equation anymore." In 2019, Ashton Kutcher made headlines for a reason that none of us could have expected. He was called to speak at the trial of Michael Thomas Gargiulo, also known as the Hollywood Ripper and the Boy Next Door Killer. Gargiulo had been accused of murdering two women in 2001 and 2005. One of the victims was Ashley Ellerin, who had arranged to go on a date with Kutcher the same day she was killed. Kutcher had arrived at her home to pick her up for the date to find the door locked but the lights on. He said during the trial that he didn't think much of it at the time. He apparently even peeked through the door and saw bloodstains, which he mistook for a wine spill. The next morning, Ellerin's body was discovered. Kutcher described how he had been freaking out after he found out what had happened. After the trial, Gargiulo was found guilty and given the death sentence.
And he still maintained his innocence today, telling the judge, "I'm innocent. I've been framed by tunnel vision detectives."
The murder trial wasn't the only unexpected event of 2019 for Ashton Kutcher. He also had a major health scare. One day, he woke up and found that his vision and hearing were almost completely gone. He said in an episode of the Paramount Plus docuseries The Checkup with Dr. David Agus,
"I woke up one day and was having vision issues, could hardly see, knocked out my hearing, which threw off my equilibrium."
Turns out Kutcher had vasculitis, a rare autoimmune disorder that causes inflammation in the blood vessels. As Kutcher told Esquire, the recovery process involved rehab and a lot of determination. It was slow and painful and full of failure and frustration. He tried and tried to get himself back to normal. He explained to Dr. Agus how losing all things he had always taken for granted was a transformative experience, saying,
"You want to reclaim the health that you once had."
Although Kutcher hadn't planned on going public about his diagnosis, the news came out during his episode of Running Wild with Bear Grylls. He told Esquire, "At the end of the day, I have to look at it and be like, all right, well, maybe it needed to come out." In 2021, Ashton and Mila released an animated web series called Stoner Cats. The series also featured the voices of Dax Shepard, Jane Fonda, Michael Bublé, and others. Kunis recalled to CoinDesk, "We were doing this during quarantine, during COVID. I was like, how do we stand out? How do we do something different?" Long story short, she and Kutcher decided to turn the show into an NFT. Not the best idea. In 2023, the series was fined by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, for misleading investors during the funding process. According to an SEC press release, the series was financed by unregistered crypto sales. Kutcher and Kunis were fined for conducting an unregistered offering of crypto asset securities in the form of purported non-fungible tokens that raised approximately $8 million from investors to finance an animated web series called Stoner Cats. The fine was used to repay buyers of the NFTs. In 2022, Ashton Kutcher ran his very first marathon. His goal had been to raise money for his foundation, Thorn. As Kutcher told Today, he trained very, very hard for the marathon.
It's brutal on the body.
A big part of his training involved virtual Peloton sessions in which he interviewed the likes of Natalie Portman and Kim Kardashian while running.
I was like, I'm spending so much time running. I was like, I'm getting bored. So I was like, what if I do this thing where I'm interviewing friends?
During the marathon, Kutcher struggled to make it through the race. As he recalled to Esquire, about 10 miles into the race, he experienced a sharp pain in his side. He was then inspired to speak to God. He said, "If you need me to have this side stitched to finish this race, then give me every ounce of pain you could possibly give me. If you don't need me to have it, take it away." Apparently, he passed some gas and the stitch disappeared. Kutcher finished the race. After completing the marathon, Kutcher decided to introduce his children to running. Mila Kunis told People magazine, "They want to run a 5K, and today he started training our kids to run. They did a half-mile run today. It's very cute." Over the years, Ashton Kutcher has dedicated a lot of his time to giving. In fact, he has made generosity a key part of his life. As he told Interview magazine in 2022, "The happiest moments in our lives are when we're giving. The only lasting happiness and fulfillment that I've ever had in my life is when I truly gave something away." In 2009, Kutcher founded the company that would become known as Thorn with his then-wife, Demi Moore. The organization was designed to support children who were victims of sex trafficking.
I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see.
After 15 years, Kutcher stepped down from the board after he faced backlash for writing a letter that supported his longtime friend, convicted rapist Danny Masterson. Kutcher wrote in a statement in September 2023, "After my wife and I spent several days of listening, personal reflection, learning, and conversations with survivors and the employees and leadership at Thorn, I have determined the responsible thing for me to do is resign as chairman of the board, effective immediately. I cannot allow my error in judgment to distract from our efforts and the children we serve." In 2022, Kutcher and Kunis also orchestrated a fundraiser to support refugees of the war in Ukraine, ultimately raising over $30 million. While Kutcher mostly stopped acting after 2.5 Men came to an end in 2015, he still made time for one more sitcom. From 2016 until 2020, he starred in The Ranch, a Netflix show about an ex-athlete who returns to his family's small-town ranch. The show also starred Sam Elliott and Danny Masterson. Masterson was written out of the show in 2018 after he was charged with 3 counts of rape. When the show was canceled after 4 years on the air, Kutcher supported Netflix's decision and didn't seem too eager to keep it going. He said during an episode of WTF with Mark Maron, "The story was told. I love everything that we did. Everybody there was still highly in love with each other. We got to the point where we were able to let everybody know that this was the last season and that we were going to wrap it up so everybody had time to find their next gig." After The Ranch, Ashton Kutcher's acting career continued to plod along pretty slowly with just a few sporadic roles. In 2021, he starred in The Long Home, a Tennessee-set indie period drama film that also starred James Franco, Josh Hutcherson, and Josh Hartnett. However, the film was shelved by the production company, apparently in the wake of accusations of sexual misconduct against Franco. One actually involved a cast member from the film. In 2022, he appeared in the BJ Novak film Vengeance. As Novak told Variety, the film gave Kutcher the chance to show a different side of him. He said, "People love Ashton, but they don't necessarily know this genius side of Ashton. This is one of the great tech investors of the past 10 years. People know him as this charming leading man, but not this intellectual powerhouse."
The problem isn't that people aren't smart. The problem is that they are. If the landscape was like this and people were just boring, you wouldn't have this problem.
In 2023, he came back to the small screen for a brief moment, reprising his famous role from That 70s Show in its sequel, That 90s Show. As he told Esquire, Mila convinced him to accept the role. He said, "She goes, you know, we owe our entire careers to this show. It doesn't matter what the script is, we're doing it." Returning to play Michael Kelso almost 20 years later was certainly a strange experience, he told Entertainment Tonight. "It's funny and it's weird. It was like super nostalgic and really odd, like going back into the basement. It was just bizarre." Kutcher also landed his first leading role in years in 2023 with Your Place or Mine, a Netflix rom-com in which he played opposite Reese Witherspoon as best friends who swap homes.
You need help. And I'm coming. And that's that.
For Kutcher, the film was, as he told Esquire, an opportunity to do something fun. For one thing, it starred Witherspoon. He explained to Variety, "I had always wanted to make a romantic comedy with Reese, like always." Kutcher was also drawn to the film's portrayal of the modern long-distance relationship. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "This one was pretty special because I think this movie could only be made today. You couldn't make this movie 15 years ago." To prepare for the film, Kutcher and Witherspoon spoke every single day to build up their chemistry. Now that's dedication. Here's hoping Kutcher enjoyed the experience so much that he signs up for another rom-com before too long. It's always been one of his strong suits, after all.